The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Talking yesterday about the fact that only 6% of the food consumed on the Isle of Man is produced on the Isle of Man, and what we can do to encourage producers and possibly to eat more Manx food, or has the government got a part to play? All sorts of other things as well, but I got a note in from 306 who says to me, I flew from Newquay Airport a couple of months ago, and the cafe in departures at Newquay was selling mostly Cornish produce, such as Cornish pasties, locally made sandwiches and local cakes. The shop was also selling lots of Cornish gin, Cornish cheese and Cornish gifts. At our airport we've got Costa Coffee, a multiple, and a shop that sells Manx knobs and perfume, and that's really about it. Oh, and some Manx books. If we keep on letting big corporate chains take over everything, our struggling producers will keep dwindling. If you want to keep your local businesses, keep your business local, says Helen. I'd be interested if you've flown from a regional airport like Newquay, whether that happens elsewhere. I mean, apart from a few signs around Ronaldsway inside, would you know you're on the Isle of Man? Genuinely, would you know you're on the Isle of Man? And a note in from a gentleman who says, for those advocating the excess income from income tax, there's 21.3 million that we found at the back of the sofa. For those saying that should be redistributed amongst all taxpayers, would they therefore accept that in the event of any shortfall in predicted revenue in future tax years, all taxpayers will be happy to accept that you're prepared to pay the share of that shortfall in a similar way? It cuts both ways, doesn't it? Swings and roundabouts. I doubt it, says this correspondent. The money must go to rebuild our reserves or go to Manx care. And this is 500, said, I was walking through Strand Street on Tuesday and I witnessed two incidents. And the first was that a cyclist on quite a hefty-looking bike just riding around Strand Street. The second was a man with a smallish, fluffy white dog off the lead. Now, the dog was running here, there and everywhere, nowhere near the man who obviously owned it, so I actually stopped the man and asked him why the dog wasn't on a lead. His response was, and I quote, "He no need one." Where's the police presence? Just one police constable was walking up and down Strand Street. Oh, no, sorry. No police presence. Just one police constable walking up and down Strand Street would certainly reassure the general public and hopefully deter such behaviour. Our island is going to the dogs. Well, when it comes to Strand Street, you just wonder who's in charge. If you ask the question, who is responsible for Strand Street, who would put their hand up? Who is the person? I'm not talking about the organisation, but the person who will accept the condition of Strand Street. And I mean the people riding bicycles all the time. All the time. Bicycles up and down. I know it's school holidays, and you could possibly make an allowance for that. And I'm not talking about little kiddies, 2 or 3 year olds being pulled along by their parents on bikes with stabilisers. I mean grown men, and it is usually men, riding bicycles up and down Strand Street. And as that correspondent said, dogs off the lead, wandering around Strand Street. The condition of the shop windows in Strand Street. Dirty, mucky, occasionally filthy shop windows on Strand Street. The prevalence of, how can I put this? What happens when a dog cocks its leg around the lampposts? and the litter bins, dirty-looking litter bins. Who would put their hand up and say, that's me, that's my responsibility? Is it Douglas City Council? Is there a warden there? Is it the police's job? I think we've established the fact that you're not supposed to ride a bicycle up and down Strand Street. But if people do, then obviously that sets a bad example for other people who possibly might have done and now will do because they've seen somebody else do it. Bad examples will lead to bad outcomes. Any thoughts on this or anything else regarding our premier shopping street on the Isle of Man? Oh, Wilf's on now. Hi, Wilf.
I don't want to take up too much time, Andy, but this is extremely important for Ramsey.
Okay.
I would urge everybody in Ramsey to go to Town Hall and go into the foyer because there's plans put in to alter our quayside again. And that's been going on for several years now, and each one we've flung out as no good. And this one's flinging out again. We're talking about a wall around the edge of the harbour, 1.3 metres high. So anybody in a wheelchair, anybody driving past in the car, or anybody, any children or anything, they cannot see over that wall. And that's under the guise of future flooding. They're 75 years ahead they're talking about. And I said, well, I'm 81, and I've seen all this maybe a dozen times. I've seen it flood a dozen times at least. And the height of the water has never reached the dip in the chains. And the dip in the chains is about 20 inches off the floor. Now, there's electric boxes being put all along the quay, including the ones that work the swing bridge. And I asked it, it was a meeting the other night, and I asked at this meeting, and I said, would you say that the people who put these boxes in are stupid? Well, no, of course not. Well, I said, the blocks of concrete that the high power electric sits on are 20 inches high. So you would have, or they would have to, alter all this when you did this and put them on top of your wall, 1.3 meters high, before you have the electric boxes, because you're talking about the water coming over top of that, which is total nonsense. I've got photographs going way back that I've taken, and the water is a 2-foot wall, as I've told them before, will cure the whole problem. Now, it started off years ago at 1.4 million to do this. Now it's 6.4 million because the prices of materials have gone up and all the rest of it. So they say. They say that the quay side, or the top of the quay, is in a bad shape. It's not in a bad shape. Otherwise, they would stop the log wagons going down every day that they've been doing for weeks now. And I've just read in the paper that it's going to carry on for 5 years. Another 5 years of these logs going down the quay. If the quay was in that bad a state, they would have repaired it before that, or told them, stop, you can't use it.
Where are they saying? Where are they saying? Where's the wall going from to?
The whole length of the quay in Ramsey. The whole length, right down through.
What, down to Bowring Road?
Yes. Right up to Bowring Road and right down to Mezeron.
To the marketplace?
This wall, yeah, right down, well, past the marketplace. It's got to go round the corner because it's going to flood there too, according to them. But as I've said, 2-foot high wall, instead of the chains that's already there, that people can step over to get to the other side or sit on, will do the job. And I urge everybody to go down and look at this and throw it out immediately, because there'll be somebody there in charge and asking you to write your comments. Well, they already know my comments, and there was, as I said, there was a meeting the other night, and I'm pretty sure 12 commissioners, they were all with me. I'm pretty sure of that. Because when it comes to harbour, I knew more than any of them that's sitting there. I'm older than any of them, and I know, and I've been around the harbour all my life. And the experts are not experts. Actually, there was a girl there, and she must have been only early 20s, telling me what's going to happen and what's happened in the past. Absolute ridiculous waste of money, waste of time. Those people have been paid good money to draw silly pictures. And then we're going to spend, well, 6.4 million on this quayside. Another part of it is, as I said, they said the deck was bad. The worst bit is up by my house. And now, you know where my house is because you've been there.
Yeah.
Now, when the big lorries go past, it actually shakes. So according to them, if I'm going to carry on for 5 years, I might end up wake up all morning sitting in a butt of rubble. I don't know.
Well,
Unless they want to fix that first.
What are they going to do?
First bit.
What are they going to do for the road on the swing bridge then? What's going to happen there?
They put gates across there. They put the walls up to the sides of the swing bridge, and then use a gate that you can put up and down when this is due, when
Right.
this is, when they hear that this big flood is coming. I've told them how the floods happen, when they would happen, and they had to agree with me.
Well,
Because I know what I'm talking about. Simple as that.
when was this proposed? It appeared recently, but when? How long have they been planning this?
This is only a couple of days ago. We had a meeting in the town hall, and it's all right because it's public. It wasn't a public meeting, but the public part is now down in the bottom of the. Everybody has to know about this. It's down in the foyer in the town hall.
Right.
But it started, I don't know how many years ago. I don't know. I would say more than 5, best part of 10, when they started to talk about this. Because the last 2 big floods really made a mess in the town. But again, I stood there and watched it, and it never got above about a foot high. It's nonsense, total nonsense.
Is there a consultation period on this? When does it end?
Oh, I don't know where the consultation. There is one on it, yes, but it's. I'm hoping it's up to the commissioners to say yes or no. But we're supposed to save the town from flooding by doing this.
Right.
And if we can put a 2-foot wall, that does the job. Plus, it's only a fraction of the cost.
Oh, I see. So if the commissioners throw this out and it floods, the DOI will say it's the commissioner's fault. You should have had the wall.
That's right. But it won't. They won't throw it out. They're determined. The government is determined to do this. But they're always squawking they're short of money. And here they are going to waste all this money and destroy Ramsey as we know it because visitors come to see the working harbour.
Yeah. Okay. So you reckon
See what
then
I mean?
a 2-foot wall, not a 4-foot wall?
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Wilf, I appreciate it. Thanks for that, and we've alerted everybody to it. Thanks for calling today. Have a good weekend.
That's it. Thank you. Right.
Cheers.
Bye.
12:25. If you're in the north, now you know where to go. Ramsey Town Hall for this proposed wall, 1.3 metres from Bowring Road to East Quay by Mezeran. That's the proposal for the future. As Wilf said, the last one got flung asunder, and we'll see what happens. Can DEFA look at the dates available on salad and vegetables from the monopoly supermarkets? We're now forced to shop every week, at least once, sometimes twice, to get food that we can eat before it's out of date. The salads often only have 1 or 2 days to eat fresh. The lack of transmit miles would surely be better for local supply to meet demand. Well, it's got to come from somewhere. The initiative, the impetus has got to come from somewhere, whether the government... And a good point was made yesterday about food miles. I mean, that was a big story a wee while ago, that food miles, your carbon footprint. So really, if the Isle of Man, if we can grow as many spuds as we can eat, surely that will be a good thing. And we don't have to import potatoes from elsewhere. The question will be, would you be prepared to pay a bit more for your spuds? Great to see tons of Manx herring being landed in Peel. A shame it's all been mashed up and used as crab bait. It's mad that a far superior fish is being used to catch a lesser meat for people to eat, says Alex. Don't you think that Tesco appears to have a monopoly on the Isle of Man for food imports, and surely they have a big influence on government policy in this area? Well, I don't know about an influence on government policy, but I mean Tesco has secured its place in the marketplace, shall we say, and you can't blame them. Ozzy Osbourne said years and years ago, you can't expect vultures to be kind. Tesco has made its living by screwing its suppliers and getting a good margin for itself. That's why it's one of the world's biggest supermarkets. It's here now. It's a bit late to moan about it. Tesco is here. I woke up this morning to find I was overdrawn by £42.28p. £42.28p had been taken from my account. I thought it was a fraud, so I rang the bank. In January, I was scammed for the same amount. The bank put £48.28p in my account and the money was returned. I was told that they wouldn't want their money back, so I didn't think any more about it. Well, the Isle of Man Bank has just taken it back without even letting me know. All I get is my pension, and I've had to tax my car today. How do they get away with it? Lots of people telling me about their favourite Manx food and what it is, and whether you not think this is a goer. Growing more food on the Isle of Man. Our food production has been run down and down and down. We don't grow any milling wheat anymore because Ramsey Bakery closed up shop. And they used all the flour created by the milling wheat that was stored in Laxey Mills. So because of Ramsey Bakery going, Laxey Glen Mills aren't used that much apart from storing the grain that was there. We had about 2 years' supply, and obviously nobody's planting milling wheat. Nobody noticed at the time. Everybody just likes a nice loaf of bread, and we like Ramsey Bakery. But that has a knock-on effect. Actions have consequences. I texted you a week ago, Andy, told you about the cyclists on Strand Street. We went down to town early with our new baby in the pram, and the cyclists were all over the Strand Street. It's illegal. It should be stopped. The cyclists basically rode at us. I saw a man on a bike, says this man, 200, and he bothers about the what we do about it. I don't know. 200. Tell me, what would you do about it? Do you think it's important? The man on the bike and the dog running around? Are there signs at the end of Strand Street stating it is a pedestrian zone? The seating area outside the best kebab in Castle Street is in a disgusting state with stains all around where the food is drink is consumed. And outside Sam Webb's, it's a similar state. The owners should be tasked with cleaning outside daily with bleach and soapy water. But the areas never look like they ever get clean. Douglas Council should be approaching all businesses in the Duke Street, Strand Street, Castle Street area to ensure standards of cleanliness and hygiene are in these establishments. D, I don't know what you think, but once upon a time, shopkeepers used to be proud of their establishment. They used to make sure that everywhere was kept clean and tidy, and it looked as clean as a new pin, because obviously if your shop looks nice, people are more tempted to come in. Regarding food imports, can't Isle of Man milk meet the demand for fresh milk? Otherwise, why do supermarkets import milk? Says Andy. Well, other supermarkets import milk because they make money off it. And guarantee, and first of all, you don't know where that milk is coming from. That milk could be coming from anywhere in the EU. We don't know. So if you're not buying Manx milk, you don't know where the raw material is coming from. And the reason they sell it is because presumably they make a bigger margin of it. So if I can give you any advice, it's buy Manx milk. Any update on the Sea Cat? Yes, it's sailing. How can you have a working harbour in Ramsey with a big wall around it in the way? Wolf's right, it's a waste of money and it's impractical. If you're going to have a working harbour, I wonder that. How would you hand the boxes of fish over the top of that? What Wilf is saying just shows the government doesn't have a clue or being held responsible for this, says G. Well, it's their idea. And they say it's going to save Ramsey. No, nobody wants Parliament Street to be flooded again. There was a bad flood last time. Affected lots and lots of people. However, if a 4-foot wall has to be built, and that's what the government's saying, 1.3 metres, it's got to be 4 foot. Will says 2 feet. £6.5 million for this. It's a scandal that so little Manx produce is sold here. Tesco doesn't sell Manx meat. I'll only buy Manx meat, says 068, so go to the butchers for it. Tesco also had to be embarrassed at the Raw Manx show last year into selling local vegetables. It's a disgrace. Since Tesco took over most of the island, it really hasn't helped. I buy as much local food as I can. Well, let's put to one side. We don't blame Tesco. Tesco is what Tesco is. It's a behemoth. It's a mammoth. It's a big corporation. It's what they do. And asking Tesco to respect our island, well, they don't respect anywhere else, to be quite honest. They'll put up the little signs, with local views and what have you. But really, they treat the Isle of Man like another bit of the UK. They're a UK-based supermarket, and they happen to be operating in the Isle of Man because they bought ShopRite. So how on earth you're going to get Tesco at that level to stock more Manx food and produce and be proud of it? Well, the person controlling their shelf space will be in Hertfordshire with a big computer. When we get the new skateboard in Douglas, it won't just be bikes going through Strand Street, it'll be skateboards too, says Anne. Can I ask why other people, I feel Manx Radio and other people make light of all of our government's, I'll use the word, this is Gary just saying, cock-ups. For example, the Manxman and many other over-budget projects they get involved with. As far as Manx produce goes, look towards Southern Ireland, see how they do it there. What point are you making, Gary, about make light of... Oh, I see, pointing out when the government gets things wrong. Well, if you listen to the government, they think all we do is point out when the government gets things wrong. They do get it. They do get it right some places. The only time anybody would earn up to being responsible for Strand Street in when it will be tea and metals times and the chance of glory, says 762. It will be interesting to know. Do you remember the Douglas Development Partnership? I'm sure there's somebody in charge of Douglas at the moment. But would you admit to being in charge of Douglas? Really? And what about that extended Weatherspoons suddenly eating lunch in the middle of Regent Street now? Any thoughts on that? Here's Howard now. Hi, Howard.
Hi, Andy. I just listened to you when you're saying about the state of Strand Street, etc. Yeah. I've just come up through. I'm sitting outside Chester Street car park here at the moment. But just from Granville Street through, I don't know how far it goes because I came up into the car park, but there's a trail of oil. It appears to be oil that's coming down from Granville Street right the way through Castle Street, and it's been driven through a few times, so you can imagine where that's spread. But I can agree with that caller who said about that particular fast food spot. It is filthy outside. And I've rung up maybe 2 years ago about it, how the grease and oil is tracked out from the actual premises out onto the pavement outside and was never cleaned. You know, it makes the place look, well, as a slum. And then according to, well, what we hear now and again, there's work going on, the birdcage in Duke Street, that is now becoming a rusting hulk. And that is a real eyesore there. You can hear they put a tower crane up on the other side now, so you'll hear a noise and assume it's work going on the site with the metal. But it's not. That seems to have come to a grand halt, and nothing seems to be getting done. Somebody should step in there, either from the town council, city council, whatever they call themselves, or the government, because that there is detraction to the town, to the Strand Street, Duke Street, Castle Street.
Yeah.
That is the main shopping centre.
Well, you just wonder who's going to take responsibility for it. Who's going to say, "I'm going to sort that out. That's my job. I'll do it."
Nobody. They know it's their job, but it's the old pass the buck time. Had exactly the same thing with the railings up there on Douglas Head when they were becoming dangerous, down to the camera obscura. And I rang the council up and they said, "Oh, it's a DOI." Rang the DOI, they said, "Oh, it's the council." And that's when I said to them, "Well, somebody's going to get hurt." That's just because the railings are rusting to an extent where they'll cut people's hands. And miraculously, somebody put the wheels into motion and they were chipped down and painted, but that was 3 years ago. And harsh environment up there, they're ready for another coat. But trying to get anybody to do anything anywhere, in any of the DOIs, the government, or the town hall, well, as Prince Charles once said, it's nice when you stop banging your head against a wall.
Yes.
And that's exactly what you're doing.
Yeah, but the thing is, Howard, as you will know, when we used to have a big tourist trade years and years ago, everybody who was responsible for a building, all the boarding house keepers, the hoteliers, they made sure everything looked fantastic. The restaurant keepers, the cafes, Felisa's Cafe, everybody used to make sure that everything looked brilliant outside. And you just wonder how some of the shopkeepers nowadays, when they see that their windows are filthy, absolutely filthy, and outside their shop is untidy, you just wonder, do they not take responsibility? Well, don't they want to take responsibility, or do they just not care?
And to add to that, what are their own homes like? They come from a filthy place. Do they go home to a similar situation at home and not see these things? Because there's people can walk around and pass things of beauty, and then when you ask them, did you see? Where was that? Didn't see that. And they're going around with their eyes shut and their minds shut. And it's easier to ignore something than do something.
Okay.
And that's the trouble.
Okay.
Are
you at the Camera Obscura on Sunday?
Wasn't intended, but it looks like it might be.
Okay. All right. Have a good weekend, Howard. Thanks for calling.
Okay, take care. Bye now.
I believe Douglas Council did advertise for a town warden, says 238, but they didn't get any interest. Town wardens are one of the most abused positions. You can't do right for doing wrong. Obviously, if they point something out, they're going to get abused by some people that they speak to about their behaviour. So it's not surprised on a small island, nobody will want to be a town warden. My word, that's a philosophy of despair, isn't it? Somebody who's supposed to look after the place, if you can't get anybody to do it, why? So nobody... Anyway, thanks 051. I saw a woman riding an illegal e-scooter on Lord Street today. I shouted that they're not road legal. She said she was sorry and then proceeded to mount the pavement and carry on. Again, what do you do? I believe oats are grown on the Isle of Man and exported for porridge. Is this so? 557. Tesco only replaced ShopRite, who were responsible for replacing all the local shops, says John. Point taken, but that was 50 years ago when that happened. And ShopRite were proud of their Manx heritage and did take a lot of Manx produce and could be approached. All you had to do, if you wanted to, was to make an appointment and go to the headquarters in Little Switzerland. Go to Centre House and present your case. Obviously, price and availability came into it, but you could go and see and talk to ShopRite. Going and seeing Tesco is quite another matter.
Hi Liz, I see you've had your garage converted. We're desperate for more room.
Yes, come through and have a look. John called Manx Property Conversions. We now have an extra bedroom, but it could be another reception room, kids' playroom or office. They also did our conservatory roof last year. We were so impressed, we got them back to convert the garage.
Wow, I need that. What's their number again?
Call MPC on 450 500. That's 450 500. Or find them on Facebook at Manx Property Conversions.
I've just locked in the perfect savings rate with Guernsey Bank Skipton International's 4.25% fixed rate bond, which matures on the 2nd of June 2026.
That sounds like a smart move to secure my savings potential.
With a minimum deposit of £100,000, your money's secure and growing steadily, and their professional team will guide you every step of the way.
Right, I'm ready to secure my future with Skipton today.
OK, for details on all of Skipton's savings products, just call 01481 730 730 or visit skiptoninternational.com.
Skipton International is licensed to take deposits by the GFSC and is a participant in the Guernsey Banking Deposit Compensation Scheme. See dcs.gg.
Douglas City Council presents the Nobles Park Fun Day on Saturday the 2nd of August from noon till 4. There's free fun for all the family throughout the day, from bouncy castles, children's rides, messy play and gaming arcade to charity and car boot stalls. Plus local performances and open mic area. There's even family races at 1 and Active Souls at 2. Find out more on Facebook or visit douglas.gov.im for more information. The Nobles Park Family Fun Day, this Saturday from noon till 4.
July Tynwald still has a few treasures to squeeze out, including an impassioned speech from Sarah Maltby in which she called on Tynwald members to stop just singing about our green hills by the sea and actually do something to protect and maintain the public rights of way that allow us access to some of the most beautiful countryside in these islands. We also catch up on some of the questions and answers that began the mammoth 4-day sitting. That's Perspective this Sunday at 12 on Manx Radio with me, Phil Gaughan. Prepare to have your heart stirred by Sarah Maltby's call for action. Will it make the difference that she's hoping for? You know what? It might.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
667 Andy says, can Claire Barber come on and say why people can't bring charcuterie sausages and cheeses back from the EU supermarkets, yet supermarkets here can sell the same source products? Seems like government protection for big business, doesn't it? Says Andy. Well, it's foot and mouth. That's what they say to prevent foot and mouth getting here. It's one of the preventative measures. The fools let Tesco in without insisting only if its competition comes to. Oh, Tesco versus Asda say the current question of stocking local produce would have them scrambling to stock the most at the best price. Point taken, 392. It's just 3 years too late. Nobody, presumably the government didn't ever think ShopRite would disappear. We could have introduced some sort of law, but we didn't. It was just too late. Bonzo's with us now. Hi, Bonzo.
Yes, just commenting on that. Yes, it was too late because the facility to do something about that with Tesco is in the Competition Act 2021, but it just wasn't enabled.
Genuinely, there was a proviso for that.
Yeah, the proviso for takeovers and such. Yes, I can't recall the section, but it was only implemented after Tesco took over. If it had been there, we would have had a lot more control over what happens. But now, OFT, I think, are now with Cura, aren't they? They used to be, put as far away from business as possible in DEFA, in St John's, but now I think they're with Cura. But Tesco are a monopoly. You don't have to have 100% of the market to be a monopoly. You can have less than 50% actually of the market and be a monopoly. It depends on a variety of things. But Tesco have, I would suspect, something now with the purchase of now they've taken over ShopRite and now they're established in all the old ShopRite locations, probably something like 70% of market. And so they are a monopoly. And given that they are a monopoly, they need to be regulated and policed like one. So there needs to be much more insistence for Tesco to stock local produce and to, not bully local producers into the kind of things from insistence on the kind of policies that head office.
And would you think the government's got the stomach to do that?
There's an election coming up, so they might develop a bit of spine on that one. Anyway, what I was ringing about was flood defences.
Yeah.
Now, I can see a way around this. Build a 2-foot wall, as Will suggests, to be the limit of such a wall. Then, for the occasions when you really need to beef up the defences, you have the ability in the wall to put up those aluminium flood defence barriers, which you see around rivers and indeed some coastal places in UK.
Oh, yeah, they're very big on that on the River Severn, aren't they?
Yeah, because not only from the floods coming down from the hills, but of course the Severn is tidal in places, and sometimes the Severn bore comes up and it really does go over the edges of everything and way into the town. And these things are quite easily purchased, and I'm looking at a website now from a bunch of people called Flood Control International, who do the Wakefield flood defences and flood defences for Edinburgh from the Firth of Forth and things. So I'm not quite sure why this isn't an option that seems to have been discussed, or whether that was an option that was being discussed at Ramsey. But, I think I'll have to raise that with my MHK.
Yes. Just for the record, Bonzo, will you be standing as an MHK next September?
Nope. No, I won't. And I haven't stood as an MHK because I have health issues, and I've discussed that with my medical professionals, and they say no.
Point taken. Thanks, Bonzo. Have a good weekend.
Okay, thanks again. Bye.
Good to hear from you. And Julian joins us now. Hi, Julian.
Hi, Andy. I'm just thinking, I do quite a lot of walking. I haven't seen any tidal gauges particularly have changed with sea level rises, either at Douglas Harbour or Castletown or Port Erin or Port St Mary, or I don't know. Have you noticed any major sort of, the little line that it weighs is rising? I haven't seen that, have you?
No, I mean, the only thing you can ever spot are sometimes the tide marks where it did flood, and that's very occasionally. Now, I'm just trying to think the last time Douglas Inner Harbour flooded. I mean, really flooded, when Kevin Woodford's Rolls Royce sailed away into the distance.
Yeah, I'm minded of one of Charles Gard's videos where he showed amazing waves touching the hotels on Loch Promenade in 1924, wasn't it? And there's a car stood in the middle of what looks like a lake on the promenade. I don't recall seeing anything like that in the time that I can remember.
No, nothing really has happened where that's concerned. The people who are pointing out climate change to us, or climate emergency, whatever it is, say that it's going to happen in the future at some point. Hitherto, it hasn't really affected us, as you say. I mean, the fact is we have coastal erosion, so the fact that Kirk Michael-on-Sea will become closer to the sea, and I think the point of air gets about 10 millimetres closer to Scotland every year, but that's just coastal erosion.
There's a New York Times headline saying that the east coast of America's beaches will be gone in 25 years. But the article was written on August 17th, 1995. So that's 30 years ago. Well, I think people are still going to the beach in New York.
Well, Coney Island's still there.
Well, yeah. Just a couple of things from yesterday. A little glimmer of light. Somebody obviously has noticed that Tesco's, and I think the Co-op in Port Erin, are not doing local meat. So a sign has just gone up on the corner opposite the petrol station in Port Erin, Piers Butchers. So I think there's a glimmer of light there. So I think they're opening shortly because the scaffolding's up. They've got a lovely blue paint on the front of it, and it looks like it's not far away. So, you know, I think a trip to Piers Butchers in Port Erin rather than the one in Ramsey might be a trip out for people. Yesterday, we were talking about tariffs against the likes of Turkey because they impose tariffs on us, like a lot of other countries do. In fact, Europe will impose 40% or more on UK meat, and that must mean the Isle of Man as well. So even the EU's common external tariff can be used against us when we're trying to go into Europe. So, but to do that, we can't at the moment, and for a very particular reason. And that is that we signed the 1979 Customs and Excise Agreement, which means that we have to mirror the UK with VAT, excise and customs laws. So if we got out of that, we would then be in the same kind of ballpark as Jersey and Guernsey. And just out of interest, KPMG did an audit on the Isle of Man in 2022-2023, which is one of the last major ones that's been revealed. And that, in the end, showed an overall deficit on the Isle of Man of around 110 to 152 million deficit, whereas Jersey has been posting 104 million surplus in the same year. So that's quite a big spread. If you're in the hole to 152 million, but Jersey, with either, if you go to Guernsey, you have no VAT, or you have the local goods and service tax known as GST, which is only 5% in Jersey, they're 104 million in the green. So there's another point. If we actually wanted to protect our agriculture properly and set our own tariffs, I mean, Jersey and Guernsey, they do less on the tariffs, but they can set quotas. So at certain seasonal times, they will restrict meat coming into Jersey, potatoes, of course, with their royals. So I know that it's been mentioned by Treasury that we get 30 to 40% of our income from VAT share from the UK.
Yeah.
But if you look, I mean, that little tiny island, that's a quarter of the Isle of Man, there's more people on it, but their revenue net is over something like 1.08 billion, and they're making a surplus. So isn't there an argument for us to actually come out of the 1979 Customs and Excise Agreement with the UK and just go our own way, and then we can settle these things? Because we're kind of bound at the wrists and the ankles by that agreement.
Yeah. I think there's something psychological about that. I used to live in Jersey years and years ago, and of course at night time you can see the lights of the French coast. So Jersey has always looked to France. It's much, much closer to France than to Portsmouth or the other ports where the ferries come from. I think there's something psychological about that. And it may be, of course, that, remember, Jersey was occupied by the Nazis in the war. So they do plough their own furrow. And maybe they've got more confidence in the future. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, the one mistake they have made, I think, in recent times was getting rid of their own power generation and going with France. And, of course, there was some arguments, I think, with them fishing in France territorial waters.
Yeah, there was.
So they were threatened to just turn off the interconnector if they didn't comply, which is another reason to worry about things when you become shackled to other jurisdictions, because they kind of make you do what they want you to do. So my suggestion might be maybe revisit the 1979 Customs and Excise Agreement, because if the UK, in terms of what they're producing, they seem all right, Jack, don't they? With 99% self-sufficiency in lamb and mutton and 83% in their dairy and eggs and stuff. Well, we're at 6%. So perhaps if we're not going to be able to do anything ourselves, we need to go our own way and get out of that agreement, perhaps.
Okay. All right. Thanks for calling today, Julian. Have a good weekend.
You have a good weekend too. Thanks, Andy.
004 says, Andy, when Ramsey Bakery was operating, island residents were up in arms about the price of a loaf locally. Now they're getting cheap bread from the Co-op and Tesco. They seem happy to shop local. We're going to have to pay a bit more. And I think this is right to support our local producers and farmers instead of opting for cheaper produce from across. Unfortunately, I can't see this happening. We seem to be in a world of buy cheap and eat cheap. That's 004.
Discover your dream home in Andreas with Cal Developments Limited. Their quality new build 2, 3 and 4 bedroom properties offer countryside living with amazing views just 5 minutes from Ramsey. These spacious homes are built for modern energy efficient living with ground floor underfloor heating and air source heat pumps, plus contemporary kitchens, beautiful bathrooms, landscaped exteriors and more. Reserve yours now. Cal Developments Limited, Oatlands Road, Andreas. Island living redefined.
Spectrum Windows. If your house needs a new look and your windows letting rain, keep those cold breezes out and make it look like new again. Spectrum Windows, Spectrum Windows. Quality through and through. Great work guaranteed to you. Spectrum Windows, Spectrum Windows.
From boxing
to badminton,
football
to fencing.
It's the Utmost Community Sports Fun Day, Saturday the 2nd of August at Nobles Park.
From 12 noon to 4 p.m, there'll be a variety of sports to take part in, whatever your age and ability.
Plus, entrance is free for all, so get the whole family involved and give a new sport a go.
The Utmost Community Sports Fun Day, Saturday the 2nd of August at Nobles Park. Sponsored by Utmost and your nation station, Manx Radio.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
And Kevin's on now. Hi, Kevin.
Hi, Andy. I'd just like to add to the weight of opinion that's been expressed with Tesco's and vegetables and soft fruits. There certainly has been a change recently, I've noticed, in the last few months with the availability of soft fruit and vegetables and the date, the best before date. Since the store opened in Port Erin, I don't know what the other ones are like, but there is a prevalence now for some soft fruits and vegetables to be very short dated, and sometimes they're delivered on the day they expire. This seems to have just happened recently. Now, I don't know whether it's because the Port Erin store in particular is just opened, and I think some of the produce comes from the Douglas store, which has certainly deteriorated. But they have said that it's more to do with supply chain issues with the soft fruit and vegetable. There definitely has been a deteriorating problem there.
But I mean, why would they expect people to buy stuff that was going out of date on the day they buy it?
Well, of course you wouldn't if you had the choice at the store, but with the deliveries, they seem to be trying to sort of palm people off with some of the fruit and veg that is on the expiry date, on the cusp of the expiry date. Now, you can reject this, of course, it's not a problem, and they are very good at dealing with it, but there's not a lot of option, particularly if you've paid for the service, the delivery service.
Yeah.
And the response I got was, well, we'll just take it back and we'll put it back on the shelf for somebody else to buy. So, yeah, there is definitely an issue there. And just following on from what Julian was saying about the butchers in Port Erin, there is a new butcher's opening shortly in Port Erin, and it's the butchers from Ramsey's opening an outlet there, so that's what's happening there.
Good.
But it definitely seems to be a deteriorating problem with Tesco's for sure.
All right. Thanks, Kevin. Good to hear from you. Good to hear from you. Thanks for that. Did you go to, this is a note in from 673, said, Andy, did you go to the Manx Museum for the showing of No Limit on Sunday? Sandy, I didn't go. George Formby Society was over to celebrate the 90th anniversary of the making of the film in 1935, a real nostalgia trip, and it showed Douglas at the height of the tourist era. Pristine shops at the Villa Marina Arcade, the grandstand as it was, and Douglas Head, complete with a camera obscura. That exhibition is still on at the Manx Museum, and so is Juan. Hi, Juan.
Andy, you don't know how much my blood pressure has gone down since I've heard that Bonzo's not standing for election.
Well,
my doctor we made up.
Are you going to stand for election, Juan, next year?
I'm just going to. I'm going to hold on that one, Andy.
Well, we've had professional wrestlers in Keys before.
Let's not go down that route either.
Okay.
Yeah, and just actually following up on what Bonzo said, I was on hold when he was on actually, but one of my notes was about flexi barriers, similar to what Bonzo was saying, and they were put up in last year used in Tampa around the main hospital because of the major hurricane that was coming and of course the overtopping and flooding, and they worked seemingly very well. I mean, it's barriers that can be installed, put in when you know that there's going to be a problem, and then stacked and taken away. So surely that may be a cheaper option and also keep the aesthetics of Ramsey and other places. I mean, if they can put them up and they slot together, they're very, very effective, they're very lightweight, and they hold back the storms. If they're using them in places where you've got massive storm surge, like America and on the coast of Florida, then I would think they would be suitable for here.
Yeah.
And you know, again, it probably doesn't suit their narrative or the narrative of rising seas, etc., which is the fear factor that they want to put in. My little rinky-dink place in the coast there is in a flood zone, but it's on the flood settings of that were set to 50, 60 years ago, and it still never met it in the last storm surge that was there, and that was huge. So, you know, again, looking way down in the future at something that possibly could happen from some guy who's earning thousands out of data modelling. Tesco, yeah. I mean, there was articles about this years ago. Tesco destroys city centres. Full stop. That's what they do. Like you say, they're in business to earn money and earn as much money as they can.
Well.
And that's the thing. I hear the music, Jan. You've left me too late. I'm going to have to come on next week. I've got loads more.
Have a good weekend.
Bye.
If you got anything to say, by the way, with the answer phone's on 682-631, or you can email manninline at manxradio.com out of hours. Well, the good news is Archallagan Plantation's reopened. They've mended it. It's as it should be, so head off to the plantation today. And this weekend, the Ledan Cycling Challenge is at Jerby, raising money for the Dan Neen Charitable Fund, of course. Dan died in the qualifying session for the 2018 races. It was really 7 years ago. Anyway, it's on this weekend. Whatever you're up to this weekend. And remember, a week today is the Royal Show. Friday and Saturday, and Mannin Line's going to be live there with a panel of guests. Right, that's it. Thanks to Chris.
WINT